All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we are going to talk about Errol Spence Jr. and the unfair treatment that Terence Crawford has received because Errol is forcing a rematch with him, and how Errol got special treatment from the IBF when poor Terence Crawford did not. At least that's the claims being made, and I'm going to explain to you in this video exactly why that is nonsense. Let's talk about that in this video. All right, welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Fanon, and in this video, we're going to be in 154 pounds, where we have a big rematch coming up in not too long. We don't know when the date of is when it's going to be, but it will be Errol Spence Jr. Rematching Terence Crawford at 154 pounds. My understanding is that no belts will be on the line, and I'm hearing a lot of chatter out there talking about the fact that Terence Crawford is no longer the undisputed 147-pound champion because he got stripped. And he got stripped because Errol Spence Jr. reinforced a rematch clause. Now, before I get into that, let me welcome you back to the channel. If you are new to the channel, please accept my invitation to hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you can be notified of when we release more videos. And if you are a longtime subscriber and supporter, thank you guys so much for your continued support. All right, so let's think about this, in an intelligent fashion. Terence Crawford just got stripped of his IBF title because he is not going to be fighting the mandatory Jaron Ennis next. This is something that has been known to be the case for a while now because Bozy Ennis, who is the trainer of his son Jaron Ennis, let it be known that win or lose, the winner of Errol Spence Terence Crawford fight is going to either have to fight Jaron Ennis or he's going to have to give up the belt. And that is what the IBF did, made him give up the belt. Took the belt from him. Now, Bernie the Boxer, who is with Terence Crawford's camp, said that they threw the belt in the trash. So it's still a little bit unclear to me whether they stripped him or Terence Crawford walked away from the belt. For all of the talk that's going on, I haven't heard a word from Terence Crawford himself, either in objection to what is going on or saying that, hey, man, it's fine with me because I wasn't going to fight Jaron Ennis anyway, which we all know was the case. But there are people that are saying, well, why wouldn't they have stripped Errol Spence Jr. if, in all of this time that Errol Spence Jr. did not defend his IBF title? So this seems to me to be, number one, not me, the people saying it, number one, special treatment for Errol Spence Jr. because Errol Spence had not defended his IBF title against a mandatory in 3 years. And also mistreatment of Terence Crawford because Terence Crawford has only been the IBF champion since July. So I do believe that is 4 months, right? So 8, 9, 10, 11, that's roughly 4 months. So this is unfair treatment. This should not have happened. And the only reason it is happening is because Errol Spence is forcing Terence Crawford to fight him at 154 pounds. Well, here's the little problem with that logic. Number one, Bozy Ennis said that either if Errol had won, Errol was going to get stripped. If Terence won, Terence was going to get stripped because the IBF does not recognize rematch clauses as a reason not to defend the mandatory. Now, they obviously, though, when you ask the question about why he wasn't ordered to do that mandatory for so long, they do obviously recognize unifications, though. So it's a little bit funny to say that Errol ducked Jerron, was ducking Jerron, or the IBF was giving Errol Spence Jr. a special exception, not fighting Jerron, when the alternative of Errol Spence Jr., or the reason that Errol Spence Jr. was not fighting Jerron, was because he was unifying against Terence Crawford. There's a term in boxing that goes around all the time called unifications trump mandatories. So since Errol Spence had defended his IBF title against Carlos Ocampo, he then had a fight against two additional unification fights, and several accidents that kept him out for periods of time. However, he unified the last two out of the last three fights that he's had over the last several years was Sean Porter. Then that's a unification fight, so that trumped the mandatory that was out there. Then he got in a car accident. He came back and he fought Danny Garcia in a comeback fight for the WBC. And I do believe that the WBC, Danny Garcia was told that he was going to be a mandatory for a second mandatory for Keith Thurman. So that in a way was a fight that was going to be ordered or requested by the WBC. After Danny Garcia, he fought in another unification fight against Yordanis Ugas. And then after that, he fought Terence Crawford in a unification fight. So those are a series of unification fights, which would have trumped the mandatory. But once the last mandatory was over, the IBF said, okay, now you got to have to fight, win or lose. You're going to have to fight the mandatory Jerron Ennis next. So those are like two entirely different scenarios when you compare Terence Crawford, who is now the undisputed champion. And when you're the undisputed champion in a division, you have no unifications. Also, all of the time that was spent unifying the belts, all of the mandatories for those three belts that Errol Spence Jr. had basically waited for that unification to take place. So sorry, man, in my book, there's no mistreatment. And now, would it have been better if Jerron Ennis had gotten an interim title earlier? Right, so that they could have been in a situation to force that because it was an interim champion earlier, and said, okay, hey, once Errol Spence Jr., once Terence Crawford pulled out of the fight last year against Errol, that they would have ordered that mandatory there. Yeah, I think that would have been a good move if they would have said, okay, hey, Errol Spence, you're not fighting Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford pulled out of the event. Okay, so guess what? Boom, we're going to order you to fight Jerron Ennis now. That I think would have been a good move for the IBF, but the fact that they didn't do it to allow for the unification is what it is, man. Can't change the past, but it's not as if they're treating Terence Crawford any differently. And the reason that Errol's getting this special treatment, but Terence is not. If you look at what happened, that's really not the case. But anyway, that's my take on the matter. Please let me know what you think in the comment section. And with that, I'm out. Deuces.